The film opens with a striking juxtaposition of two women, one racked with agony as blood pours from her body, the other trembling with ecstasy. It's just a dream for Pauline, but the reality of her life isn't much better. Her sister Grace is confined to a rocking chair, hooked up to machines to keep her alive, as she suffers from cystic fibrosis. Meanwhile, Pauline's parents, Bob and Phyllis, bicker over trivial matters, like Bob not putting the toilet seat down. As the family sits down for breakfast, Phyllis scolds Pauline for eating too loudly, revealing her favoritism towards Grace. But Phyllis's attempts to mold Pauline into the perfect woman only serve to push her daughter further away. Phyllis may think she's teaching Pauline how to be a woman, but in reality, she's showing her how not to be a good mother. In class, Pauline asks if it's possible to catch a disease from having sex with a dead person, but the teacher ignores her and moves on. Pauline overhears Natalie complaining about a bad sexual experience with her boyfriend Adam, and Abigail teasing Natalie that her boyfriend might be gay. When Adam arrives, Pauline blurts out the conversation and adds that he isn't attractive enough to be gay. In the car, she and Phyllis are on their way to a church to meet with a reverend. Pauline wants to see a therapist, but Phyllis says it's too expensive. This shows Phyllis's lack of concern for Pauline's mental health. At the church, Pauline asks the reverend about the church's stance on organ donation, and he says they believe the body is sacred. William sees how problematic Pauline is, and she promises to make all their future sessions hell on earth. Later, Pauline prays. She says she knows she doesn't believe in God and apologizes for not reading the Bible as it has mixed reviews. Pauline plans to have premarital intercourse and asks for forgiveness in advance, stating that God has to forgive her as long as she apologizes for it. Next day, Pauline finishes her exam first and tells her teacher her answers are correct, stating that math is not important for her future as a surgeon. Phyllis tries to get Pauline to sign her daughter up for dance classes, but Pauline refuses and accuses Phyllis of ruining her life. The deaf woman, who was the recipient of Phyllis' slow speech, silently expresses relief at not being able to hear their argument as Pauline discards the flyer and walks away. At the dinner table, Pauline argues that she's too old for the cotillion class. Phyllis wants Pauline in a cotillion class for her to learn how to act like a proper lady. Grace says she can't wait to join a cotillion class, and Phyllis smiles. Pauline turns to Bob, who is clearly indifferent. Bob's response angers Phyllis, and she walks out. Later that night, Pauline dreams of an autopsied body. She then climbs on top and starts licking it and rubbing herself all over the corpse. She then awakens with shock in her eyes. At school, Pauline asks Adam to take her virginity, but he shows disinterest. She gives him her number, and he accepts out of politeness. Later, Pauline draws Grace's figure on the sidewalk and shares her plan to lose her virginity, that too during her period. Phyllis intervenes and invites them inside. In another room, Pauline pierces her nose and dreams of being in a tub of blood with other women. She wakes up feeling euphoric, and Pauline's morbid dreams give us a peek into her degrading sanity and repressed sexual desires. Though she wants Adam to take her virginity, she mostly dreams about fornicating with women. At breakfast, Phyllis and Bob are upset with Pauline's new piercing. Phyllis demands she remove it, but Pauline refuses. Bob also orders Pauline to remove it, and she complies. Phyllis and Bob later have a conversation, and Phyllis expresses concerns about becoming like her own mother. Bob reassures her. Meanwhile, Pauline watches the neighbor, Kimberly, jump rope and approaches her to join, but Kimberly refuses rudely. Later, Pauline is on her computer searching for surgical tools when Adam calls to accept her offer and agrees to pick her up on Monday. In the bathroom, she smells her bloody tampon and prays, expressing her concern that her dead relatives are watching her. She worries they'll see her sleeping with Adam. Her family falls asleep on the couch while watching TV, and Pauline watches a channel with a man moaning. She dreams of being surrounded by a woman, a younger man, and an older man, ready to devour her. She wakes up the next morning next to a puddle of drool. Grace plans to attend a camp for children with her illness. Pauline tells her mother she's going to study with Adam and gets a makeover from her. Adam arrives, and they leave together as Phyllis proudly waves goodbye. At a motel, Pauline and Adam quickly get down to business. Pauline asks Adam to undress, and they have intercourse. As they do, Pauline can't help but imagine choking Adam and blood pouring out of them both. She finds it exciting. Pauline asks Adam to go down on her, and when he feels strange, he goes to the bathroom. His mouth is full of blood, and disgusted, he takes her back home. Pauline is all smiles, thanking Adam for a wonderful time. Adam curses at her and leaves. Phyllis greets Pauline and seems to know what happened. Pauline prays once again, this time asking God not to make her pregnant because she would abort the baby. She has another dream where a bloodied fetus comes out of her and gets sent into a washing machine. Phyllis informs Grace that her friend from camp died. She tells Pauline to be kind to Grace as she's going through a tough time. Pauline suggests other alternatives for Grace's lung transplant due to the risks. Grace tells Bob that the worst part of having cystic fibrosis is losing friends. At church, Pauline is uncooperative with the Reverend, stating her condition requires science, not religion. They end without progress. Pauline prays to give her power to save Grace in exchange for her mother's life. Next day, Kimberly visits asking for donations for her jump rope club, and Pauline threatens to perform a tracheotomy on her. In the locker room, Natalie and Abigail mock Pauline's appearance, and Natalie tells her Adam is available as they broke up, but Pauline declines as he's not good in bed. Later, Pauline marks her abdomen, planning to undergo an umbilicoplasty to change her appearance. Grace tells her boys only care about two things, pointing to her chest, and Pauline says she's doing it for herself, but deep down she knows she's not. Reflecting in front of a mirror, Pauline remembers a time she almost drowned and Bob had resuscitated her, but Phyllis only worried about Bob's cold sore transferring to her and blamed her near-death experience on her clumsiness. At dinner, Phyllis brings up cotillion class again and buys Pauline a dress, which Pauline expresses her dislike for. Later, Pauline expresses her desire for marriage, and Phyllis tries to put the dress on her. Pauline asks Phyllis if she still loves her, and Phyllis says yes, but changes the subject to a cold sore on Pauline's lip. She then tells Pauline they'll have to avoid pictures. Pauline is frustrated, and later gets a dream about a woman getting her tongue ripped out. At school, Pauline vomits on Abigail after stealing and drinking medicine from the home cabinet. At home, Phyllis confronts Pauline for stealing an Ipecac bottle from the cabinet. She admits it and confesses she only did it to escape the cotillion, but Phyllis is unrelenting. She feels proud and tries to make Pauline presentable. At the dance, Pauline stands out among the teens. Finally, she finds a lonely girl who relates to her but suggests surgery to fix her face. The girl is taken aback and leaves. Later, Grace gets caught kissing a boy and Phyllis scolds her. Pauline is with a young boy, dancing. When he notices her cold sore, he deems it disgusting and pushes her away. Pauline, feeling spiteful, kisses him in front of everyone, causing a scene. Phyllis is disappointed and takes her children home. At home, Bob cleaning muddy footprints, Phyllis reflecting on her children's behavior, and Grace coughing while Pauline bites her nails. Pauline sneaks to the library to study lungs, but Phyllis calls the school and finds out she was absent. Phyllis slaps Pauline when she comes home, and at dinner, Pauline throws food at Phyllis and runs to her bedroom. She later overhears Phyllis telling Bob that she can't love Pauline. By her door, Pauline cries her heart out as she listens. The next day, Pauline finds a dead bird on the way to school and takes it home to try to save it, but it's too far gone. As she licks the bird's blood off her fingers, Phyllis knocks on her door. At dinner, Pauline and Bob discuss the toilet, but Phyllis interrupts, saying it's inappropriate. Pauline tries to leave, but Phyllis doesn't allow it. She then criticizes Phyllis for her weight gain and blames it on menopause. Later, Pauline prays and apologizes for her sexual desires, but blames it on God for giving her hormones. She has a dream where women caress her as she retrieves her own severed head from inside a corpse. The next morning, Phyllis speaks with Pauline and admits to her own shortcomings as a mother. She reveals that her own mother was abusive and doesn't want the same relationship with Pauline. Pauline deflects her mother's attempts to connect and leaves. The next morning, the family wakes to find their house vandalized. Pauline suspects Natalie and Abigail and seeks revenge by attacking Natalie at school. At the principal's office, Pauline blames her actions on her mental health, but her parents never took her to see a doctor. At home, Pauline tells Phyllis she probably has a personality disorder that has gone undiagnosed for years, and her actions are a call for help. Phyllis disregards this and sends Pauline to her room. In the bathroom, Pauline carves a Red Cross symbol on her arm and is scolded by Phyllis. Phyllis. During dinner, Phyllis and Bob express disappointment, and Bob says she won't have a career in medicine. Phyllis calls her delusional. Pauline dreams of being worshipped with blood and guts. At breakfast, Phyllis tells Pauline they're sending her to a psychiatrist, but Pauline believes it's too late. Phyllis later learns Grace needs a lung transplant, and Pauline overhears, promising to help Grace live long enough to get married. Grace asks Pauline to be her maid of honor. At dinner, Pauline expresses gratitude for her parents' tolerance, tells them she wants to change and help with Grace's illness. Bob is supportive, but Phyllis is skeptical. As night falls, Pauline thanks God for her newfound determination and measures Grace's dimensions for surgery. When her mother is away, Pauline slips a powder into Bob's tea and they talk, with Bob urging her to be more understanding towards Phyllis. Outside, Pauline apologizes to Kimberly, luring her to the garage with the promise of old jump ropes. But when Kimberly's guard is down, Pauline swiftly covers her face with a rag, dragging her inside. She then fixes her sister's hair, promising that Grace will be grateful for what's to come. As she leans in for a hug, Pauline covers Grace's face with a rag, rendering her unconscious. The stage is set for the ultimate surgical procedure, one that will change everything. In the bathroom, Pauline cuts her hair off while preparing for surgery. In the garage, Grace and Kimberly's bodies lay lifeless and open. Pauline meticulously removes Grace's lungs and replaces them with Kimberly's. Meanwhile, Phyllis arrives, and she sees Bob tied up and unconscious. Phyllis looks for her missing daughters while Bob struggles to break free. She finally gets to the garage and comes face to face with Pauline's handiwork. Pauline invites her to see Grace's sutures, apologizing for her sloppy technique. The film ends with Pauline urging her mother to take a closer look, who runs towards her and grabs her, holding her and screaming hysterically. Pauline at first seems proud, but then begins to sob.